Hello and welcome to Starcodes Astrocast. This is Heather Rowan Robbins, and I speak to you weekly or through Access Astrology on Thursday nights and once a month on Starcodes Astrocast, where I talk about the month ahead and then interview a favorite astrologer or someone who's astrologically oriented in their work. This month, we have Dr. Maria Wander coming on, who's president of the NCGR, the National Center for Geocosmic Research, and an old friend from New York. Really interesting story. We'll bring her on at 15 minutes past, Mercury willing. So you might feel a real difference in the energy as this month begins. Last month, we had Mercury retrograde for most of the month. It turned, and there was a hurry up and wait. We could feel the energy building up as Saturn conjunct Neptune. And we're going to talk about the aspects of what was going on in America at that time in a minute. But today, we can feel the energy shift. The sun went into Aries over last weekend. Mercury turned direct on Friday, but that sun first conjunct Neptune and left us in a fog. And so over the weekend, there was great confusion in the airports for most of them. Minneapolis was clear. Great confusion in the airports, great difficulty in understanding what's going on, and continuing gaslighting from the government saying they're doing one thing when we see them doing another. But we see this ongoing pattern. We can feel it beginning to rev up. All these Piscean planets are slowly heading one after the other into Aries. The Saturn conjunct Neptune and in Aries and began a whole new cycle. When any two planets conjunct, they begin a cycle, and we can look back to all their other aspects back to that original cycle. In a minute, we're going to talk about the Saturn-Pluto sextile coming up and how that echoes back to the Saturn-Pluto conjunction in January of 2020. But right now, we see today you're going to feel some shifts, really strong shifts. The confusion over the weekend, the spinning in place, and the confusion that brought some terrible accidents. But moving, the clouds are beginning to clear. We can see what the problems are more clearly as the week goes on. Mercury's beginning to move forward. It's still in detriment in Pisces for a while. But today, the Sun conjunct Saturn, and that Sun-Saturn conjunction, I think, we'll be seeing decisions made now. And I gather the Ivy League colleges all put out their decisions tomorrow. There are a lot of, last week was match week for the medical schools. There's a lot of decisions precipitating now from work that we've been doing for weeks and months and years ahead of time. But so keep an eye open for new decisions, new ways forward, and new ways of working with this. Now I want to just take a peek back at the beginning of that Mercury retrograde cycle. Now this is the United States chart with our progressions on the next ring out and where the transits were on February 28th as we began as our country began that difficult war. Now we see that at that moment, that was Saturn and Neptune conjunct. They both moved into 1 degrees at that point, and we're shifting forward. They are at that beginning. We see that that Saturn Neptune conjunction is going to begin a cycle, asking us to look at war. What does that mean? It brings up all the questions of militancy, but also adventure and bravery and the guts to rebel. All of that, all of the Aries archetype is activated, and we have to live out. Neptune investigates the archetype in a really truly mythic way, but it also in a rather concrete way. But Neptune symbolizes water, liquid, and things that flow, and our illusions about that. So it's also our addictions, and our addictions to fossil fuel is toasting this planet, and the illusions that we have that this is something that we can continue. We all might be facing somewhere in our lives some addiction, some habit that it doesn't really serve us in the long run. That's how we handle stress. That Saturn is saying, take a good look at that. We can help you now. This Saturn Neptune conjunction can help you reorganize that and serve you better. Saturn can restrict, it can, facing the tough realities of Saturn this whole month, with as we leave that foggy time and all the planets enter Aries and we start revving up, we ask you not to rev into a wall, but to rev up in a good way, a rev up in a way that will move you forward and really work for you. So that Saturn Neptune conjunction is, looking, asking our country to look at, kind of let go of the illusions and ask what's really happening, what's really going on here. It's also Neptune to Saturn. Saturn is can also speak about our work and our security, and it's asking us to say, what illusions do we have about our own work or work in general as we face this whole new realm. It's in Aries, so it's a beginning of a new cycle. And again, Saturn and Neptune have not conjunct in that first degree of Aries in thousands and thousands of years. So it's really asking us to take a look and start over again and look fresh at that. The whole concept of work is shifting as AI clicks in. I gather Meta just let go of 5,000 people. Good to see Maria is in the house. I'm going to bring her on in just a few minutes. Glad to see you, Maria. And we see that as that Saturn Neptune conjunction, what that was doing, sitting down at the very bottom, the IC of the mythic American chart. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about. We see Mars heads into Aries next, but the Saturn Pluto conjunction that's going to happen, Saturn Pluto sextile, is going to happen this weekend, and its effect on the last Saturn Pluto conjunction. This weekend, just as people are going to be rallying for the No Kings rally, we see Saturn sextile 5 degrees to 5 degrees Pluto, and asking us to look at how power is managed, how power is displayed, how can we empower. Pluto is asking us to really pull back from that, the Pluto in Capricorn, all power to the patriarchy, all power to the dictators, and bring it back into the group of, in a way that actually empowers people, not just creates another mob mind. But we're going to see that coming up. I wanted to take a look at this. This is the original inner wheel, is the January 6th riots in 2020, as Saturn was conjunct Pluto, and we saw that the use and misuse of power, that we held it together, but there was a great challenge to our power. That was still in Capricorn then, was really looking at how that power can be misused and what it took to hold center. Now we look at the aspects this weekend as that moves into a sextile. It's really interesting what they do to the American chart. We won't go into that. But Uranus is going to be right on the moon of that aspect. We see some energy building towards positivity, towards movement. Venus in Aries, bringing up the fire, all squaring that Capricorn lineup of the last sextile. So I have hopes that this weekend begins an awareness of a shift into the sextile out of that conjunction. I hope it's good medicine for this. And then we have later on in the month, as the sun enters Taurus on April 19th, there's a couple of other aspects let's take a look at this one first. On April 9th, Mars heads into Aries and joins this lineup, adding extra power. Mars is at home, it's moving forward, but it's moving forward into what? The fact that every planet, as it first changes signs, hits first Neptune and then Uranus. The moon does it every time it changes signs. The sun will do it every month. Every planet, as it changes signs, first aspects that slow-moving Neptune, which is going to be at 2 Aries, and then 5. Then it's going to hit off that Saturn sextile. Saturn-Pluto sextile. We can have hopes that it will move into good place. At that point, Venus will be in its own sign of Taurus, Mars will be in its own sign of Aries, which is great for spring fever and juicy relationships coming up, but will be also add extra oomph. Now remember, the sun is still flaring. The sun is still really cooking, shooting off flares, which keeps the volume turned up on all our other aspects. It peaked in 2024, but it's still, we're still seeing northern lights up here. So as long as that's cooking, that has a roughly an 11-year cycle. We see the difference between the first Trump administration, when the sun was at a very long and unusual minimum, which tends to lower our immune system and is concurrent with pandemics, and now on the maximum, where it's like turning the heat up under the popcorn. And we're in the process of acting out. So I'm going to bring on Maria, and we can talk about any of these charts. We're going to talk about other things that she wants to. I've been enjoying Maria's astrological input for a long time. I used to go to New York and spend time with Ann Ortley and Mark Wiltz, my Access Astrology crew, and Maria was always involved in those workshops and was fascinating. Now, Dr. Maria is, I mentioned that she is president of the National Council for Geocosmic Research. She's a university professor, author, herbalist, clinical hypnotherapist, certified biomedical informaticist, and has long been service to all the major astrological organizations. She's a little busy. And she also is a high priestess within the esoteric tradition of the Assembly of the Sacred Wheel, and initiate in the Gardnerian and Cabot traditions, and a Llewellyn publisher author working on the Capricorn Witch book for their series. She's curating and helping build the New Alexandrian Library, which I want to hear more about, which is an open resort for metaphysical seekers and speakers. Bringing her to the stage and taking that chart off. Hello, Maria. How are you?
I am well, Heather, and thank you so much for inviting me. It's great to see you.
Yes, and you too. And what a busy life you've been living.
We've
Yes.
all been pretty busy. You would,
Yeah.
even after you left New York, you would still fly back and come and hang out with us, which was delightful. So
I did until that first week of the pandemic. That's
well,
why I
then,
was there when
yeah,
it
that
closed down.
changed.
Right.
That changed everything. That changed everything for a lot of us. It's really interesting because I'm a late 60s model, so I was born at that Uranus-Pluto conjunction. And I remember attending a talk, and someone had said they were going through all the different outer planet placements, and they were saying, and we don't know what the Uranus-Pluto conjunction people are going to do when they grow up. And basically, these were this group of people were the ones who, got us through the pandemic. Like, these are the scientists who
Yes, they are.
invented all the healing things that we needed in order to make sure that people didn't die of disease. And these were the people who were manning the hospitals. And so it's just really interesting that,
63 to about 68 was the time where that conjunction was strongest. And that began a cycle that has been cooking. We saw them square as Obama came into office. And then they're moving, Uranus and Pluto are moving into 5 grand trines starting this summer.
That's
both
right.
Sextile Neptune.
It's
and so Neptune will be holding the reins for that.
But it's going to be a different flavor of the summer of love, hopefully. I mean, who knows? I mean, that energetic peak is going to come in July, along with the Barbeau basket, the golden era prediction from Andre Barbeau, who famously predicted the 2020 pandemic. And he identified this formation as being incredibly auspicious. So while there is a lot going on, there is some hope, because
I agree.
The world is still becoming, and we are part of its creation, of its becoming. So this is like a once in a century alignment where all the outer planets like Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto are going to gather closely in this bowl or basket shape. So it's this possibility for structural reorganization. And as a astrological person and a magical person, as a witch, and actually as a data scientist, I mean, which is great for astrology
I think
because
it's a great combination. Yeah, which data scientist?
right. I've been out of the broom closet. I mean, I work for the federal government. I've been out of the broom closet for ever since I started working for the federal government, and I've been very fortunate in that that I came in at a time when it was totally fine to be open, and having been out of the broom closet, as they say, ever
You can't
since.
get back in. Yeah.
I can't. Once you're out, you can't get back in.
Right.
So, but it is funny because I remember there was one of the anniversaries of my working there for the medical center, and I couldn't figure out what the weird sensation was that was happening to me. And I looked up, and they had set up like a witch's hat over my office chair that they had stapled like
No.
rubber spiders and like birthday wishes and everything to it, or like whatever, like all these different wishes. It was just really funny because I'm like, what is going? I feel something energetic bizarre. I mean, usually one does not look above your head, and they were taking pictures of me with this hat like floating up, but it's just yeah. My team's great. I'm very fortunate. There I am. I'm a clinician. I'm a biomedical informaticist, so I do data mining and things of that nature. So it's and also actually taking care of humans. But yeah, it's a wide, and then teaching other people to do biomedical informatics so that they can do data mining, so that the healthcare is also getting organized so that they can plan for the future and they can see what they did in the past. It's kind of like being an astrologer because I do installs for big data systems because the hospital buys whatever. They'll buy new EKG system, a new anything, and they need to connect it to the patient record, and they need to make sure that it all works. And you want to make sure that it works on the technology point of view, which I have that training, but then also on the health point of view. That's why you don't hire just a regular IT person. You hire somebody who actually has the technical background and then the clinical background as well. So it's an interesting job. But so as a medicine, my tradition, the Assembly of the Sacred Wheel, if you listen to what that sounds like, the Assembly of the Sacred Wheel, we're actually a bunch of esoteric magical practitioners who are astrologers. That's the sacred wheel, not just the sacred wheel of
beautiful,
the sacred, but
and not just the wheel of life.
Yeah. So there's right now there's 16 covens, and they organize themselves according to the astrological signs. And we started from Pisces, so we went the other direction. So we have a Pisces circle of 4 covens. We have a Aquarius circle of 4 covens. We have a Capricorn circle of 4 covens, and we have a Sagittarius circle of 4 covens. So right now, the organization has been around for over 40 years now. So there's there's 16 covens. It's taking a while. We want to get to the entire wheel, but we're not in a rush.
Right.
But we do a lot of public service, like we do public ritual. There are a lot of people who haven't ever been in a ritual, depending on where you are in the country. So we're in the Mid-Atlantic region, and we do a lot of
you have
service.
all of those covens in that area, in just the Mid-Atlantic region, or is it all over
my coven is the most northern, which is in the New York City area, New York, northern New Jersey area. And then it goes down to Pennsylvania, and then it goes to Philadelphia, all over Pennsylvania, and then Delaware. And then, so it just keeps going all the way down.
Do you have a birth chart for the beginning of this organization?
It's probably online. The Assembly of the Sacred Wheel is probably online and it's actually the chart of the Holly Chalice. I probably have it in my computer somewhere, which I could look right now. Let's look. Let's see. I recently found software for my cell phone.
Go ahead. Your camera froze there for a minute. So Marie doesn't know that the camera is frozen, but I think she'll
be happy because if you're a Uranian astrologer and you're trying to do chart, nope, can't find it.
Okay, don't worry about it. I wanted to correct myself on something earlier that I mentioned the chart affecting January 6th, but I mixed my year up because Neptune is still in its shadow I know the difference between the year of the election, which was right the Saturn-Pluto conjunction, and the year of the when the event happened. January 6th was 2021, not 2020, as I mentioned earlier. So I just wanted to show that this Saturn-Pluto sextile that we've got coming up will be affecting that Mercury Sun, the Mercury Pluto conjunction there. That was a Jupiter Saturn conjunction that was tight that day with Mars and Aries, and Venus is going to be right on that Mars and Aries. So no matter which way you look at it, you're going to see the resonance between this as a potential for softening the effect of that process. But let's come back to us and now and today. But I want to thank Denise for bringing that up and reminding me that I was off year by that chart. So you're coming back to your circle and you're working with us. Now, my family tradition is my father was an abstract mathematician. My mother was a psychiatric nurse. Put them in a blender and you get an astrologer, right? And, for you, it's the mystical traditions and the science together has given you where astrology can go in both directions and can echo in both directions. And is there really a language between the fine arts of the spirit and the magic and the work of science and structure and form and shape and the rhythms of the world? So it's really an interesting mix, I think, that you bring to this.
Used to be, I mean, and hopefully if ever it does happen again, right? The astrology used to be taught in universities, right? Just like every other thing that you would find useful in the world,
Right.
And so
a system by which you observe the world, that's
sure. It's just that the average Joe who's looking at the, sun sign column in the newspaper, they don't realize that what's behind all that is a massive amount of rigor and pattern recognition and all the things that you would use, as a scientist. So it's a different kind of science. They're just looking at it from a different viewpoint where they think it's just hooey when in fact, those of us who live our lives this way realize that there's a world underneath the world that everybody else sees. And if you can align yourself with it, like align yourself with the small cycles, the medium cycles, and the macro cycles, then you will not be so horrified and confused when you're standing in the middle of the way we live right now and old structures are collapsing and all these people are trying to hold it back. And
it's not going to happen.
And keep it in place by saying, let's bring it back. Let's bring back what it was great again when that period wasn't even as great as they thought it was. So
right. And you can't go back. Well, for one thing.
You cannot go
but
back.
Also the astrology is so powerful at this year in particular of the change from all those planets and introverted signs to all the planets heading into fire and air signs. We have to there's no way to hold on to what we were. And now how do we adapt and evolve in a good way is going to be the question. Well, and I was looking back at some of the tech developments that are related to the Uranus-Pluto transit. The Gutenberg Bible, the first printing press, was under a Uranus-Pluto conjunction. The Watt's first steam engine was the Grand Trine and Earth signs that brought about the beginning of the American Revolution in 1769. Babbage's first difference calculator in 1820 was a Neptune-Uranus conjunction, both square Pluto. The first gas-powered auto was as Uranus trined Pluto in 1885. First plane, Uranus opposed Pluto. First nuclear bomb, Uranus sextiled Pluto. So we're going to see, I'm seeing the AI clicking into place and what that means for all of our jobs and the world and our pattern recognition and some really wonderful things, but really huge shifts. We can't even begin to imagine how much the world is going to change, partly from that.
Absolutely. 1964, that was the IBM system, the 360 computer.
First
they actually called it the 360 computer, which like harkens back to our 360-degree astrology wheel.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
That's the first computational revolution. I mean, it's literally, the artificial intelligence that is occurring now is all, that was the seed moment. And as you mentioned, I mean, this is just a time of amazing institutional reset, ideological reset, and the tension between decentralization and control as power is shifting through all these different networks and shifting through technology and shifting through collective systems that, the Uranus moving, from Taurus to Gemini is letting us know that we're going to have to let go of this sense of material stability, that there
Yes.
is stability, that everything's, as you mentioned, the air and the fire, that's all the information, the communication going zoom, it's just gonna, it's time for change, whether people like it or not. And
Right. And I think that so much change. And again, how do we adapt? Adaptability. And we know from looking at ecosystems that diversity is what allows a biosystem to adapt quickly to stress. And the diversity of our culture is going to be absolutely essential for how quickly we adapt and create a healthy life on the other side of this. Because it's going to be, and the wildfires, I think this summer, as Saturn and Neptune both went into fire signs, that we're going to see. We've already seen the fires starting in the West. The effect of climate change is going to clobber us.
yeah,
And it's not something we can go back to. It's like, how do we adapt to this new new place? And it was
just
going to be really tricky.
there's definitely this collective anxiety about
Mm-hmm.
the world awakening to the transitional state that it is in. And
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
people just need to sit and realize they've gotten on a boat, and the boat is not
Exactly.
the land, and the boat is moving, and you have to get your sea legs, and you just have to reframe your life that everything that's changing, it could be chaotic, but it doesn't have to be.
No.
Everything, it transition is occurring, and it's as if you're gonna like Marie Kondo and organize your office. I mean, I was reading this
Right.
book.
Let go of anything that
Right,
doesn't really matter. Know what's on. I describe it
exactly.
like having a lighthouse. Where
Yeah,
do you want to be heading? You may not get there, but it will help all the little decisions along the way, and let go of anything that's not heading in the same direction you are.
right. You just be in alignment with who you are, what you need, the people that you love, and just you need to choose consciously. A lot of it is consciousness, like being awake and aware. And once you do that, then you can be more responsible. You have a sense of discernment. And once you have a sense of discernment, then you can have a sense of participation. I mean, the Assembly of the Sacred Wheel partners with another group called Sacred Space, which Sacred Space holds an annual conference. And my tradition actually organizes with them every time there's a big astrological conjunction or aspect to do magical workings. So for the weekend that the Saturn Neptune came together, we had a big dual conference where all these
Mm.
intermediate to experts, magical practitioners come together, and we spend 4 days studying from each other, learning from each other, and doing magic together. It's a lot of ritual. So we always have to find a hotel that has massive spaces so we can do these really complex rituals where there's like
Mhm.
300 people. I mean, 300 people are sitting in the ritual, but the main people are in the middle in the ritual doing it. But it's the kind of work to move the needle so that you're restructuring the way the universe works, in that it wants collaboration and collegiality, and there is singularity in that.
That's so Pluto and Aquarius.
The Saturn Neptune is like coming together in Aries, because Aries wants you to be your true self, wants you to
Mhm.
be aware of who you are and what you stand for. But the Saturn and Neptune, I mean, the conjunction alone is two planets coming together. That's already collaboration. So
Right.
you have to learn how to work with your boundaries so that you know when to surrender them.
And like, my the heart of my choice-based astrology work is to really look at each symbol and each aspect as having 180 degrees of expression. And
Mhm.
if you're afraid of this, you can't choose which aspect is going to hit when, but you can choose how you live it out. But you're going to live it out some way or the other. You can direct the river, you can't stop it. So with the Saturn Neptune, if you can find a positive refrain, if you can find a way of working with it, doesn't mean you completely get out of the hard work of this. We are going to be facing our addictions. We are going to have to look at how spiritual discipline Saturn, spirits Neptune can work together in a good way. But it doesn't have to be um, a delusion. It doesn't have to be the Weltschmerz, the world weariness that Saturn Neptune conjunctions can seem to bring in people. Everybody born in 1953 had that Saturn Neptune conjunction in their chart, and often have the feeling of kind of going back to that, oh, that angst that of Saturn, Neptune. It says it restricts the sense that all magic is just possible and you can just you have to kind of like, and I do the work and then the magic happens. You know, that
Absolutely.
my work has to follow my ideals. If I want to visualize, and then visualize, I need to put in the sweat equity. And if they can work together, there's not much that can't happen. But
Exactly.
it's a powerful part.
Personal agency and
Mm-hmm.
personal participation. I mean,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you have to show up. I mean,
Right.
I was delighted when they asked me to run for NCGR president, and I was thinking to myself, how did I even get here? And it all started with participation, just
Yeah.
showing up at NCGR meetings and being part of the
Huge.
group of people
Mm-hmm.
who are just learning
Mm-hmm.
and teaching and just hanging out and talking astrology as we love to do.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
everyone just needs to sit in the realization that we are not passive in these cycles. We can work with them. We have
Absolutely.
agency. Yes, use your agency and participate. And astrology is not supposed to be an end all and be all. It doesn't remove any uncertainty. It just gives us an orientation so we know where we are and where other things are. So we're not.
I have to let my dog out so that he can go bark at the UPS truck. So yes, and that sense of agency. And I always think one friend of mine in the military used to describe the Aries energy as ready, fire, aim, and that that one of the pieces we have to be very careful is to choose to this energy is up, the fire is strong, participate, but really think about consequence. One of the areas is not really good at imagining the long-term consequence. That's something we can bring in. And when we add that magic, when we participate and bring our sense of time and rhythm and consequence, we can use the power of it without getting the slam of it. I think we can direct that energy.
Absolutely. I mean, to try to point yourself in a direction that is right for you and right for the people around you and right for the community that you're living in, the community you serve. It's part of being even embodied in your life. I think some people are going through life and they're not really awake. They're just, chop wood, carry water, make sure they have enough money. And I know that,
this year, I don't think you can do that.
Exactly. It's really hard to
last
be
month you couldn't do anything else because everything was fuzzy. But
right.
Starting now, it's like the heat's picking up.
Right.
Since the spring equinox.
You have to be able to distinguish urgency from danger. I mean, what's going on?
Good point. Mm-hmm.
What are you going to do about it? That's my thing. It's like people are running about saying, the sky is falling. And even in doing work with the organization, it's like, if you think the sky is falling, what is your plan? Come and bring me an idea and come and let's talk about it, because this is not all just theory. We're living here. We're living these lives. Like we are embodied in what's going on. And we need the direction so that we can all grow this collectively. And there's going to be dissolving, there's going to be loss, but there's also opportunities to structurally reorganize everything. And wouldn't you want to organize it the way you would like, so that we're potentially reversing like long-term economic depression and fostering a new collective orientation so that there's solidarity and we're reducing inequity. I was having a conference.
That's the lighthouse. That's like, where are we heading with this? There's so much change. The clutch is in. Uranus is changing everything. This summer, in July 19th, 5 planets will be at exactly 4 degrees all around the zodiac. And it will be, there's great change and power coming to shift the gears and make things happen. So kind of really choose where you're headed.
Yeah, that's such an interesting, like that Barbeau basket that you're talking about, because it's got this combination of sextiles and trines with an opposition. So there is that orientation for collaboration and also effort, and also people not having to be in complete agreement. But when you look at it in the chart, it actually creates this beautiful basket, which is like this collective level container, right? That the sky is symbolizing this bizarre, unusually coherent symbol for building and stabilizing and distribution, so that we can create a new pattern after this past period of strain. And as a magical person, it actually creates a container to do magic, that you can actually do anchoring and sealing and just hook power into that. So there'll be a lot of magical people who are going to be doing work in that July period. And hopefully they're aiming their workings to the betterment of communities and institutions and, material conditions and collective morale, not just personal wishes. Like, I wish I had a pony. I wish I had a bicycle. This is like this post-crisis reorganization signature that we can hook into and rebalance and redistribute. It's so strange right now, the world. Someone was just telling me that they're not making any more pennies, right?
Right.
So
how bizarre is that, huh?
But it's so weird, right? Because like the original penny was made of copper, right? So that's Venus. And then who's on the penny is
that's not the right one.
The penny is is Lincoln, who was all about, trying to move forward with fairness and things of that nature. And now people are saying, Venus is love and collaboration and harmony, and Lincoln is fairness. And they're like, well, we don't need these anymore. Like, what? Like, what is happening in the world? I mean, this is not useful for us anymore. Just even the symbolism of that is just sometimes
I know
it's the reality of the world sometimes is just gobsmacking. Like, wait, what? So this is sometimes you're just surprised. I'd love to find out the chart of that when they made that decision,
When take out the pennies?
Yeah, because it's like, what was, and just to see what was going on with the headlines that day,
So this is July 19th at 9 a.m. when in Minnesota, because that's where I did the chart, where we've got the Grand Trine and air signs, plus the Jupiter at 4, Neptune at 4, and all what we call a grand sextile. Now, I liked one of the takes on Uranus, the planet of change and upheaval, the think of the cosmic clutch that takes everything out of gear, leaving Taurus, and it's going to be heading into at the very end, I think the end of May, or it's at the end of April, that it heads into Gemini. And when we're seeing it already dipped into Gemini last summer, that we see the change being, what was creating change for the last 8 years while Uranus was in Taurus. There are many things, there's changes in the world, there's change in tectonic plates, all that Taurus. But it was the people, the big oligarchs, the people with a lot of money were trying to be the change. Now it's going to go into information systems. It's going to be into Gemini, getting the word out in an egalitarian way. I think finding new ways of communication. I think the old systems, but once you leave the standard media forms, you have to do all the fact checking yourself. That with deep fake, so clearly part of the legacy of Neptune in Pisces, that we trying to discern what is real and what is not, how to get the word out without trusting the mainstream media, which has now gone, getting more and more partisan. How do we kind of find and value objective information? That's, I think, the gift from the Uranus heading into Gemini. That's where
Absolutely.
the change will be.
It's such a high energy signature. It's in alignment, but also so tense. So it just is just a moment. I mean, big momentum and just so much potential. I'm really curious to see what's going to happen. I mean, it feels like it's a turning point for society, technology, personal reality. And when it's happening, when the sun is in Cancer, I mean, just also spotlights us as the United States, and what makes me feel somewhat better is the moon in Libra, because the moon in Libra really wants to focus on relationship and harmony and balance.
Yes.
So that, that brings me back to that hoping for the emotional landscape of fairness and connection, bye pennies, but at least, the moon is in Libra in this time period, so that it's a good moment to reassess like how to partner with yourself internally and with other people. And then Jupiter will be in Leo by then. So everyone's going to be having that new sensation of being amped up, right? Not just all the rain that where I am, it rains. It's been raining like crazy because Jupiter is in Cancer. So once it
right.
rains, it's not
So
one drop. It's like a
well,
deluge.
that's part of the climate change, is that there's bigger droughts and bigger
Hmm.
floods
Yeah,
and more
absolutely.
extreme weather of all types. And
I have some friends
the
who are trying to,
yeah,
excuse me. Oh, no, I was
go
saying
ahead.
some friends were trying to convince my family and myself to move where they are, like over in the like Vegas area. And I was saying, there's no water there. It's going to be,
Real
unfortunately, it's very
dry.
likely going to be water wars in the United
Hmm.
States because
I agree.
there's areas that are not going to be properly resourced for that. And Jupiter and Leo is definitely amp that up. That's one of the things that, Jupiter and Leo is going to bring creativity and self-expression and,
And fabulous street art, street theater. I
oh,
think we're going to see, it's the street theater, the acting out with Jupiter in Leo is going to be spectacular.
totally. It's like main
Hmm.
character energy. Everyone's going to be
Hmm.
out there like doing like
And
dancing together, and
now
it's
I
going to be
worry because when Jupiter opposes Pluto, things can get
mm,
pretty dire. And that is also part of that sextile will be a Jupiter-Pluto opposition,
yeah.
which has me
It's,
a little worried. Now, I did something, I was looking at the Sabian symbols, which I don't use that often, but I
mm,
work with Carolyn Casey, who does, and
mhm.
that kind of really clarifies. So I was looking at the minute you have 4 plus anything, they call it 5 degrees in the Sabian symbols.
Right, right.
So the Sabian symbols and what's the missing one in the grand sextile is really interesting. So 5 Aquarius is the Council of Ancestors, and a
Oh,
beautiful image of holding us in a circle and pulling in our ancestors from all of our traditions, because we need the wisdom to do this well, right? 5 Leo is a rock formation at the edge of a precipice. And I'm thinking of that, like, is that rock formation we can hold on to it? Is it something grand, or is it something we're going to fall over? It's kind of like, but it talks about the edge of a precipice. The things are that brings that edginess to it. 5 Aries is a triangle with wings. They said the ability to rise above the ordinary and integrate the concrete into the spiritual. What a beautiful degree. That's where Neptune will be. 5 Gemini, the image for that is a radical magazine to challenge the status quo through communication, the role of the mind in social evolution, the importance of disseminating ideas to mobilize action and reform. Isn't that beautiful? And
wow.
then 5 Libra is a man teaching the true inner knowledge of the new world to his students. And what a beautiful part. The missing piece, the one we have to add, because when we want to be a model, we want to be whole. When there's something missing in the chart, we have to bring it in by experience or other people, or we start to crave that empty corner. Here, the empty corner, which can empower the rest of this, is the image was an old owl up a tree, which they said represents the necessary element of the steadiness of human affairs, the importance of self-respect and normalcy in life, that we should be willing to process from our past mistakes and learn. And so it talks about this, our steadiness, our human steadiness, our learning from our past mistakes, and keeping ourselves stable and normal and healthy as much as possible while the world's in transformation will help us work with all of those other aspects. I thought it was really cool.
Definitely. That's like the moment of transcendent wisdom. It's
Hmm. Hmm.
the old owl up a tree. Who doesn't want, oh, I love owls. That's
Yeah,
just
me
so
too.
cool. It's
Isn't
it's
that?
interesting. This chart too also has this sun square Chiron, so there's
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
that
Hmm.
whole pain and shedding of pain and hopefully
Can we
moving.
work with it? Yes.
Yeah, yeah, the squares, the powerful squares that aren't just bad news. That early on in astrology, that was like the first big cosmic aha, that the squares are your friends. Just
Hmm.
you just have to learn to work with them. They're
I think of them as like combustion engines. They power us forward. If we can time them, they move us, they get us going. If we don't time them well, they blow up. But if we can get them moving, they have that momentum. That's quite powerful. And so
this
this is a chart full of momentum, but it's also has those, grand trines. you can just make this the summer of love and just go listen to music the whole summer. But I think this is going to demand that we take action and we
Yes, absolutely.
keep
That's why it's
moving.
great that there's squares and there's oppositions in
Mhm,
there to, as you
mhm,
say,
mhm,
power the engine. Because otherwise, like people think trines are just these lovely things that happen. It's like actually, I found trines to be kind of like a sheet of ice.
mhm.
Basically,
Interesting. Go ahead.
when you, whatever you're doing before you hit that sheet of ice and how you handle it when you're
Oh,
on the sheet of
interesting.
ice,
Mhm,
because the trine will just make it happen.
mhm, mhm.
And if you're doing shenanigans and foolishness and then you hit the ice, guess what's going to happen? You know,
Absolutely.
but if you have pre-planned and you've organized yourself and you have put something in motion, once you hit the motion, then you hit this sweet spot, and that's when you have this amazing flow.
Mhm,
But
mhm.
a lot of that is making sure that you're you've done the work,
Directed
you
it. Right.
supported yourself so that when you're in the flow, you're in alignment with that trine and you're not just wasting it by eating cookies and, you know, dancing at a
Mhm.
concert, which yes, I love to dance at a concert. And I also like to eat cookies, but I also I also like to get a lot of things done. I mean,
Right.
one of the
It's
things
I think it's open doors, but you have to choose to walk through. Whereas squares kick your ass down the stairs, you know, and then you have no choice, you know. Um, and that opportunity that you can roll with it. If you resist it, you're going to have a dealing. So I do love the fact that that the trines, which gives us this opportunity to make things happen. What I find that people with all sextiles and trines in their chart can get passive, can like, oh, it will happen
right,
rather than I have to do this. It's like a cosmic art grant. If you inherit money, you can just coast and eat truffles all day, or you can use that to really do what you came here to do and to help other people and make good things happen. You can do
absolutely,
your art, and it's an inheritance, a positive inheritance. Don't waste it. You know, enjoy that ease. There are some people you look at their chart and go like, "Oh, your last life sucked. You're here to take a deep breath and rest
sure,
and just recover. And so I'm not going to push you." So you may see them with a fair amount of sextiles where they, get disability funding early, or they, I think my son was born with spina bifida, has a lot of sextiles in his chart, is funded, and is not pushing himself, but he's got, he doesn't need to push himself. His conditions push him, his past lives push him, and
yeah,
he can use all, but if anybody needed to buy a lottery ticket, we'd send him in for it. The few times our family won, you know lotteries or uh, raffles, he bought the ticket, he chose
that's
it.
amazing. Yeah, everybody's born with such an amazing like opportunities and things that
Hmm.
you can do,
Hmm.
and that's
Choose
that's
use it well.
yeah,
Right.
use it well, just like the
Hmm.
astrology of this summer that's coming up. It's use it
Hmm.
well. I mean, one of the things, even in my tradition, we we get a lot of things that people don't want because uh, magical people pass away, and then they have entire homes filled with
Yes.
occult information, and usually they're the black sheep, and their families are saying, what are we going to do with all this? But then they're afraid because they don't just want to chuck it in the trash because they don't know what it is, and
It's magical, right?
it's magical, and they know a lot of it has power. So we actually, my organization, my tradition, we built a library. We raised money, we bought the land, we hired a contractor, we hired an architect, and
Wow.
we built a multi-story geodesic dome in Georgetown, Delaware, and we filled it with all of a bunch of resources from
Now
different
that's the beginning of a good movie with a cult bent.
well, and we should actually we actually have some filmmakers, so we could probably film something really cool because the it's called the New Alexandrian Library, and it's a repository for artifacts related to magic and paganism and esoteric traditions. And there's rare books, and there's ritual gear, there's tools, and we actually use the top floor as a recording studio because we've cut like 3 4 different chant albums to use
Fabulous.
for ritual use. And
Mhm, mhm.
it's this library is where we send our funding to when we hold conferences. We're not trying to get
Ah,
rich making conferences, but we'll I'll give astrology readings away to, the conference when
Can
they.
people borrow those magical implements?
You can go into the library because it's a lending and research library. So
It
you
is,
have
okay.
access. So you have access to it. I mean, if anybody looks it up, New Alexandrian Library or the Assembly of the Sacred Wheel, you can
not Warehouse 13, right?
No, but you can call and you can make an appointment, and we have a doctorally prepared librarian, and but it's a wonderful place to just go if you just happen to be driving through Georgetown, Delaware on your way to the shore down there, and go check out all the collections, because it has a library also from the Theosophical Society of Washington, D.C., everything from Judy Harrow, and just a lot of interesting.
I started off as a Theosophist, and I remember it was the book release party for a book by called Small Mediums at Large, and it's a woman who was from a family of very short people that were all wildly psychic. And so there was Small Mediums at Large, and her older brother, who was a pretty famous New York psychic, had inherited the whole apartment of a famous old occultist who had done the original treks through Nepal and knew and that house was so full of artifacts, and everything buzzed, and you couldn't even pretend it wasn't full of spirits. But it was a pretty magical place. I don't know whatever happened to it, but it was a pretty magical place.
I think. Oh, I know this person, Terry Ayakuzo.
Yes.
I think she still lives
exactly.
there.
It's amazing.
She still lives there. She's a
her
little petite woman, and she's
little petite,
right,
about Small Mediums at Large, right? Mm-hmm.
Right. Frank Andrews, he was a very prominent New York City psychic, and I think she still lives there, because every now and again she'll teach at Omega, so I'll see her up at Omega. I remember when her book came out, and I said, that's a great title, because they're all very, very petite people.
Mm-hmm. And it's a great book. I highly recommend it. And it describes New York back in the day, that she was kind of living in the tough apartment down on the Lower East Side. But it also talks about how you really follow the psychic process that she experienced and her family has experienced. So it's a really back in the day.
I miss my old apartment in the East Village when you and I first met. And you guys were hanging out at East West Books. I lived in the East Village, and it was just such a wonderful time of year. I mean, time of my life, the early aughts, like learning astrology with you and Mark and Anne. And I was so delighted that you guys still hang out and do it. You guys are still doing Access Astrology.
We do it once a week, and we still brainstorm together. It's been really wonderful to keep working with them now for 20 some years. Isn't that amazing? Because we met and started working together right after 9/11.
Do you have a chart of when you do you have
we have several of them because we began with a larger group, and then there was a fast attrition rate of some difficult personalities, and then it was the three of us. We all three kind of like, you guys go play, we'll play, and we've been working together ever since. We're really, the chart between the three of us is quite strong. Anne and I are both the Virgos, and I think her sun is on my ascendant, and my moon is on Mark's sun, and they have their own connection. So we have a really nice kind of pass the baton. We come from three different directions, and I love that, talking astrology where you're sharing it and you're looking at the same thing from different perspectives, but it's not competing. It's really now we do a CAT scan. Now we get a three-dimensional view of what's happening here. So I've loved working with them. That's
and I love that you triangulate in the best possible way. It's like this Plutonian triangulation, but then you're so engaged and you so in connection with each other, and just the way you do your astrology is very different. And I just appreciate your astrology, like choice centered, choice based, is really so ideal, because when you're doing a reading with somebody and you tell them, well, you're having this third house transit, that could be 20 different things, right?
Yes.
and then you're explaining to them all the different facets of what that could be. But then they come to you and they say, oh, well, you said exactly the thing that was going to happen. And I'm like, I didn't say exactly that.
That was one of the many things that I said, right?
I said 20 things about that.
But that's the power of a symbol. That's the power, of the signs, the aspects, the houses. They are three-dimensional. They are holograms. They're not specific, linear, this happens to that. This is a powerful symbol. You will live this symbol out. The more you understand that symbol, the more choice you have in how you want to live that out. But you don't have to live it out this way or that way. If you don't work with it, it will work with you. But
Right.
you can, and the Pluto transits always say you can't fake out a Pluto transit. The whole point of a Pluto transit is to feel out of control and to work with the bigger patterns in life. But you can go like, oh, I'm in the river, floating down the river. Now what do I do? Oh, rather than let me hold on to that and pretend I'm not changing. And if you see that Pluto transit, so
Absolutely.
I think it's a powerful process. Thank you for. I think the symbols of astrology are what makes it such a powerful, magical experience.
Absolutely. And even when you're working with other astrologers, or when you're in consultation with somebody you're doing a reading with, it's that exchange, the conversation, where, as you say, you can focus on like archetypes and the themes and the stories behind what's going on, the story behind the transit or the progression or what have you, so that what you're interpreting is more like this cosmic zeitgeist, which allows for this nuanced creative dialogue. So, not just predicting events like, the roadrunner is going to run by and an anvil's going to fall on you or whatever it is. I mean, so you just create a common language so that there's this neutral framework that isn't inherently, predictive, saying, watch for anvils. But okay, maybe for you, the sky is falling in a different way. Just be careful. So they know that you're listening to them and you're engaged and you're connected, but that you're also in tune with what's going on astrologically, and how that when you're highlighting these different nuances, that there are other options too, so that there's more meaning in the conversation than you just looking like you're trying to make this prediction, because it's really not about that.
Absolutely. And closing up this weekend at Saturn sextile Pluto, and it's going to be exact during the No Kings rallies. I think it works strongly to help mitigate the Saturn-Pluto conjunction that was around the election in 2020, and that was still in orb in the breakdown of January 6th, 2021. And I want to see that this is a magical weekend for that. It's kind of, how do we reframe that and move that in a better direction? So while it's on, if you are at a rally, feel the power of that aspect. If you're not at a rally, do something to help visualize this world and support this world evolving into a healthier use of power and a healthier use of structure and organization.
Absolutely. It's a beautiful building phase. Make things happen.
And I think it's going to be beautiful. Any
Absolutely.
last comments? How can people reach you or work with you if they choose to?
You can just reach out to me on Instagram. My Instagram handle is I am Maria Wander, or you can contact me at NCGR. You can email me, which my email is president@ncgrastrology.org. Or you can just go to the NCGR Astrology Contact Us page and you can reach out to us. And
wonderful.
Yeah, we're out there. We're always here, and we're doing a lot of special interest research groups. So if you have a different desire and you want to start your own, and you can become a member and start your own special interest research group, or you can join any of the many that we already have. There are a plethora of different kinds of things to do and learn and be in collaboration with astrology. Thanks so much for inviting me. I had a great time.
Thank you. I had a wonderful time, Maria. It's always a pleasure to connect with you. And good luck on that. And I'm so glad to know that you're head of NCGR, which is one of my favorite organizations.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.